individuals on our screens. So the impression is that it is no longer a threat or causes significant discomfort to most people. So in this breath, we could even think that we are like being victims of our own successes in that area. So, and hitherto, people were dying offhand. You know, people hear of their friends, their colleagues who have passed on in no time because of HIV. But now with the advent of the medication, people are living longer. Those who get on it are living longer. They are living healthier lives. We're corrected until now, hopefully. But HIV is a lifestyle disease, right? And it's in the system. So if you do not take care of yourself, you run the risk of acquiring it.
Absolutely. I like what you just said. You are saying that it's not just about the campaign, it's also about the science of it. So yes, there was a campaign, but I mean, with the science too, we chalked successes where we now have drugs, we now have knowledge, we have information, and so all of us seem to think that, oh, you know, we can chill a little. But clearly, with 927 people living with HIV in Ghana, surely we can't relax, can we?
We can't. And the numbers keep increasing. Gradually, it keeps increasing. We're lucky, a few are dying off, but the number is increasing. Every year, averagely, we're having about 20,000 new infections.
Every year?
Every year.
20,000
averagely. In fact, last year, 2022, it was about 16,500 and over new infections in the country. This is not acceptable because we know of all the preventive methods that are available. And for epidemics, for HIV, we can do that.
The way you answered the first one, you said it's a lifestyle
yes.
Disease, so to speak, a lifestyle epidemic. It's tricky, isn't it?
It's tricky. You see,
it's tricky.
There are a number of factors contributing to it. Okay, there's the social factors.
Social.
There's the economic factors, right? There is the structural issues related to it. There's the biological aspect, right? And then there are other factors associated with getting an HIV infection and how to stop it. Somebody will succeed in naming the economic factors, because poverty from the time of discovery is one of the reasons why people get HIV.
Absolutely.
Lifestyle, right? Multiple sex partnerships, sexual staging sex for money, commercial sex, and even with commercial sex, whilst they have been educated and know that the use of condoms, for example, is one of preventive measures, when people offer higher prices, they're able to.
The economic.
Yes.
Come back to the economics there. We come back to so let's stay on the economic. Sorry, sir. Please drink some water.
Yes.
Let's stay on the economic because for me it's very important. And I remember very well how sometime in the past people said it's what was the word? It's a class, pandemic, in that the lower you are on the pecking order, the higher your chances of getting HIV. Because then, I mean, now condoms are free, but then you don't want to buy the condom, or you can't buy the condom. Like you say, it might push you into becoming a sex worker. Or if you are not professionally working as a sex worker, you could be, unprofessionally.
No, there is hookups in the system that we know.
Exactly.
It's another form of.
Right. So my question is, and in Africa, and we're having this conversation earlier about how we sort of contributes about 71 or 72
70% of
globally,
yes.
global infections are from the continent. And it's a poor continent, I mean, relatively, when you compare to the other continents. Shouldn't our focus be eradicating poverty? Wouldn't that be the best way to eradicate HIV/AIDS?
So it's
on our continent, on our end?
Yes, it contributes. We have to look at the extent of which poverty contributes to the infections, the new infections. And we're saying that yes, it does contribute. It is a huge contributing factor because it affects the lifestyle of people, and then they go into that. So one of the preventive aspect of HIV, we have the structural prevention, which looks at trying to solve all the issues, school dropouts, right? Because it has been found that adolescents, young people, young girls who drop out from school have a higher chances of getting HIV. And then being in school prevents young people, especially the ladies, from catching HIV. So yes, it is part of the entire toolbox of preventing HIV, trying to reduce those structural barriers, school dropouts, lack of education. There is a report, a research that shows that people who are educated, or education as it is, putting the youth in schools, prevent them from getting HIV to some extent. So we are also preaching about making sure that people are put in the right places, either you are in some vocation or not. And it stands to reason. Teenage pregnancies is all related. Sexual transmitted infections also in the same aspect. So poverty is an issue. So the more there is poverty, the more certain categories of people get the infection. At the flip side, extra cash also contributes.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. Because people have extra money to spend, especially the young men.
Right.
And then they go about enjoying themselves. And because it is a natural phenomenon, sex is natural. It is natural. And nobody wants to stop anybody from having sex.
Biology.
It's biological. Okay? But it is the safety, right, of it. Everything, even every kind of food. The safety of the food you eat is important. Cheese is good, but the quantity and the amount and where and how you go about eating it can affect your health. So sex is biology, it's part of life. But if you are somebody who cannot control, manage your hunger, then you have to find the ways and means of prevention. And there are several methods in the toolkit to help prevent getting the infection.
I'm looking at the fact sheet, and it seems, at least locally, adult people, and this is both male and female, from the ages of about 15 to 15 years and older. So I think they constitute the highest number.
Yes. So the fact sheets,
they constitute the highest number on this. This
we have age brackets as to the numbers of people living with HIV. And then we have all that, because based on the estimates that we have and we can use to estimate all the age brackets, and especially the new infection. What I will want us to look at more is the new infections, because the new infections tells us what is actually happening. How are more cases being added? Because the old infections or the total infections classifies new ones and old. So if the person or people haven't died off, they are still in the system.
Living with it.
Right. But the new infections and the incidence is most worrying, and it's something that we look at very much.
Absolutely.
Because it tells you the transmission rate, how new people are getting infected. And when you look at the new infections as at now, as at 2023, as I was saying, it's over 16,000. Unfortunately, we have about more than 4,610 being contributed by the youth, the ages 15 to 24. Okay, and out of this number, the majority of these are females.
Yes. I actually, I was really going to ask you about that. Why? Why are the females?
I've already talked about economic disparities, right? And in our systems, they bear the branch of economic disparities, right? Secondly, unfortunately, I talked about factors, the biological makeup of women make the transmission to females easier. So if a man and a lady engage in sexual acts, it's easier if the man has it to transfer the virus because of that anatomical disposition of the female, as compared to a female transferring it to a man. It doesn't mean it doesn't occur, but it's just that the dynamics is such that it's a little more easier because they experience more bruises easily in their genitalia. The surface area is larger, the mucous membrane are thinner as compared to the male as it is. So that is one factor that contributes. That's why we are asking our ladies to, and they should have some bargaining power to use prevention methods. It's not easy for them, but they have to learn that assertiveness and all that.
So you're using a lot of diplomatic language. Essentially, we ladies need to take this matter into our own hands, because at the end of the day, we are the ones that will catch it easier than the men.
It was about 83% of them, as compared 8 out of 10 of people new infections in that age bracket, 15 to 24, occurred in females. And in total, it's a reflective of the disease as it is. The total HIV population, about 66% are females as compared to males. Right. So ladies,
we need to be stricter. We need to be, as we say locally, we need to be wild. We need to be wild and insist on proper for ourselves, but also insist on our partners to stop
economic factors, transactional sex, biological issues, emotional stability, and all that. Right? Bargaining power. Unfortunately, there are also people who get sexual assaulted, contributing to the HIV infections among them. Yeah.
Wow. So you can't even be too careful.
You can. You have to be careful, and yes, you are not too careful. You have to be careful and make sure that we don't get the infection.
The minute you added sexual assault, my heart just sank. Because that's on another level. Because with that, it's not about you bargaining and having a voice in the process. Somebody's just taking your whole power away from you.
That is a very unfortunate and heartbreaking. I mean, you can't force yourself on anybody. It's criminal, and in fact, and those who do assaults and rape are duly supposed to be put and sanctioned accordingly.
Absolutely.
You can't go out.
Absolutely. Okay, now I want us to look at the original breakdowns, and then we'll come back to this issue of stigma.
Yes.
It's a big one for me, this issue of stigma. So I'm looking at your fact sheet, and I'm looking at people living with HIV AIDS. I'm looking at the population ranges. This one says all ranges. And in Accra, I mean, Greater Accra region, that's the highest.
Yes, about 85,000, over 85,400, yes.
Thereabouts.
And I think it's followed by Ashanti. About 72,000 people living
with HIV/AIDS.
Then at the Eastern region, and the Central region. Right? Yeah, right.
Western region, Bono, Volta, Bono East, Western North, Northern, Upper East, Upper West, Ahafo, Uti, Savannah, the lowest being the Northeast region.
Oti and Co are about in the middle when you rank the regions. And fortunately, or I don't know whether that is when you go to the northern part of the country, the numbers and the prevalence over there are quite low. And it's good. We have been we've been looking at it, we've been contemplating, research has been ongoing to find out whether some cultural factors play major roles in that. And we believe that it contributes. So, and it's good. And I don't know, but these cultural issues are strong in some aspects, and it's good. So the northern part of the country, the prevalence is quite low, the numbers are low, and it's good. It's been low, below 1%, 0.5, 0.34 over some years now, and it's still that. And we're hoping, and in the big cities, right, a lot of things happen. Poverty, we've talked about it already, and the crave for material things. Sometimes it's not only poverty, it's greed. And the trying to show off when it's not actually necessary, when it doesn't really add value to yourself or to society, but and all that.
So we are back to lifestyle. If it's a cultural issue, then we are actually back to lifestyle. This is again very tricky, because I insist that the biggest change or the hardest change to make would be the cultural change. Those ones are very difficult to do, isn't it?
Yes. I was telling somebody that in some part of the world, if you see a doctor and you don't add that to his name, you're in big trouble. In other parts of the world, just call it Fred, John, and life goes on. It's easy, it's fine. Everybody's happy. And it's again culture and understanding and changing. So culture can change. So I believe that whatever contribution that culture brings into the picture, we can do that. In our culture, we don't even talk about sex that much.
No, we don't.
I mean, you have sometimes an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old daughter, young man, and as a parent, you have difficulty chatting about sex, advising, even advising. You need to try and get a counselor or somebody in the church or at a facility to do that for you. Sometimes it's absurd, right? Whereas in other cultures, 12-year-old, 40-year-old, she can tell a mom, "Mommy, I wanted to go and have sex." And the mom will sit the person down and tell you that, "Look, you know what you mean or what you're about to do? This is the result of that. You can get an STI, you can get pregnant, you might have enjoyed yourself and all that. So you have to think through and come and tell me What do you think about it? As simple as that. But in our culture, the same animal called culture in Africa, it's quite different. But gradually I see changes in some of these things, right? So I'm sure we will get there.
Oh, absolutely.
One
absolutely.
of these days.
And, I mean, it doesn't just happen overnight. You can't have a child that you don't communicate with, who you have told to be silent all his life, because children are only supposed to be seen and not to be heard, and expect that suddenly when he's a teenager, he will come to you with his,
and ask you questions. They go to their friends.
It doesn't happen, yes.
And they say, let me go and experiment. Let's see what it is. And that brings about. And as I said, sex, for example, it's a natural biological phenomenon. And it's enjoyable, no doubt about that. You can't, and so if he goes experiment 1, 2, you can't stop the person from having sex. It becomes a difficult thing. The next stage is protection, having it safe. And already you are not talking to this person. How do you then go in to even give him a methodology, the options available, so that he will even enjoy whatever the person is doing safely, not to bring an untoward or an additional harm or effect on the individual or the society or his future or career.
Absolutely.
You can do that as well.
Absolutely. That's it. Back to the cultural shift you speak about. So you should start from how we raise our kids.
Yes.
It should start from there. Be more frank, be more open.
Be more open.
Have an open door policy. Be your child's friend. Be
Yeah.
able to communicate so you can, take it further. I like that. I wanted to go over the other facts, but it seems as though it's no different from the PL HIV population.
Yeah,
it's the same.
It follows almost the same pattern.
Right, follows the same pattern.
Yeah, it follows the same pattern.
Okay, so now let's come to stigma. Because isn't that what makes this one so difficult? I was recently I was on a show on another station. I was having this conversation around how, I mean, it's easy to talk to somebody about COVID. It's easy to have the COVID conversation.
Yes, have people going about it. I had COVID and I recovered.
You
and
can
I'm
talk
fine.
about it. You can talk about, most of these other diseases that they are. But you don't talk about HIV, because when it comes to HIV, there's the tag of promiscuity. You had to have slept with
that is it.
Does the stigma still persist today, and how are we going around that?
It's a difficult thing, breaking stigma. People think it's moral fault. That's why you have HIV. But we know from even prevention of mother-to-child transmission, as time goes on and we're understanding the disease processes, the mode of transmission and all that, understanding that mother-to-child transmission of HIV can occur, there's a reason for us to put stigma at the back of our minds. Or put it at the back of history. Because a single act can lead you into having HIV with a positive person. You could have been raped. You could have had it from your mom, mother-to-child transmission. You could have had an unfortunate blood transfusion, especially in our part of the world where medical interventions are not the optimal, right? We are all striving towards the optimal. In some places, it's even hard in the continent of Africa for people to have screened blood, well screened blood. And as a practitioner, sometimes you weigh the options. The option of seeing this person die or giving this person an unscreened blood which might have HIV, which you can treat after. Would you prefer? You want to allow the person to die? No. You go ahead, and if this blood you have at hand, which you had struggled to acquire, to transfuse. Because that possibility might not even be there. It's a 50% chance of the blood having the virus in it. And even if it had, you save the person from dying, you have a life, and there is medication or management of whatever infection that has. So it's a difficult thing. Stigma should not be pervasive. Stigma should be pushed to the background. It should not, but it's causing a lot of harm. People are not going for their medication because they don't want people to point fingers at them. You have HIV. But what is it? It's an infection, a viral infection as such. You can have hepatitis, a viral infection which is also transmitted, one of it through sexual encounter. You could have syphilis, any viral infection. A common cold is a viral infection. So I think gradually we should, as more innovations and understanding of the disease and the illness is coming up, we should put stigma behind us.
Absolutely.
We should put it behind us.
Absolutely.
I have HIV, so what? I have diabetes, so what? I'm managing. You are not, who are you to judge? From the beginning you talked about some of the campaigns that was happening, and I'm wishing and praying and hoping that we will get more funding to do more of these campaigns. To do more of these campaigns. That's why at the last World Day we had launched the AIDS Fund, so that we can generate internal or our own resources to help curb all the issues around HIV. Yes.
The menace, because funding is important, isn't it?
We
are told that it's one of the most studied infectious diseases in the world. One of the most studied infectious diseases in the world. So, of course, that then brings us to the successes we chugged scientifically, with the science. And therefore, our ability to manage and live, even if we have. Let's talk about that for a minute. I think that it's important that we explain that further. Because part of the stigma, I don't think that stigma has left us, is that we think that once you have HIV/AIDS, you have a death sentence.
No.
Right?
No longer.
So for me, it's always important that we talk about managing.
Maybe four decades ago.
4 decades ago.
Yes. Maybe 4 decades ago.
Right.
But not now. It is not a death sentence anymore. Nothing like that. Normal, healthy looking human beings. If you stick to the protocols, if you take your medication, and stick to a healthy lifestyle. And as you talked about innovations, in the toolbox of prevention, we've talked about A, abstinence. We've talked about B, be faithful with
C,
an uninfected partner, or even if it's a pattern, drugs for prevention.
For prevention of HIV?
Yes.
Right, let's talk about that.
There are drugs for prevention. There are 2 types of prevention using drugs. Post-exposure prophylaxis and pre-exposure prophylaxis. So the post-exposure, as the name means, is after you have been exposed to the virus. You can take medication that will prevent infection, HIV agent you have been exposed to. So it's post-exposure. And post-exposure, for example, is for people in the health sector, especially who are operating or who are nurses who are injecting, and while you use a needle on somebody, you get pricked with that needle. So it's after you've been exposed. Possibly the person who you were working on might have HIV, and then you have introduced it into your system. within 72 hours.
It was so important to me, the duration, the time lapse.
Yes.
So within 72
within
hours.
72 hours.
Okay, of the exposure.
As the exposure, the medications are most effective, and you have to take them. They are antiretroviral medicines. They are taken, for example, for about 28 days. Right? So, and currently in Ghana, people who have been raped, exposed to rape survivors, can also, because you might not know the status of the person who had defiled you, so you can go for that medication, so that if there's any possibility of establishment of an HIV infection in you, it prevents it from happening. So it's a preventive method, and it's post-exposure prophylaxis.
I have a question, sir.
In some countries. Okay, we can come in first.
No, go on. My question can wait.
Yeah.
You are saying that in some countries, yes.
When you as an individual have engaged in what you think or had considered as a very risky behavior, you can go for that within 72 hours.
That was my question.
Yes, I knew you were coming to that as well.
that was my question.
Yeah.
Because my question was, say I'm a married man.
Yeah.
And I have gone and engaged in some extracurricular activity, and I can tell that where I went to, that was risky territory. Can I walk into a hospital and say that I think I may have had exposure to HIV? Can I have access to the post-exposure anti?
It's easily available in some countries. In our context, you have to see a medical personnel and then some investigation, some talking to.
It's not easy. It's not easily accessible.
Currently, not so much in our context, but in other contexts.
How about the private hospital?
You can go and try and see.
Can I go and try the private hospital? If the government hospitals are not that accessible, can I try the private hospitals?
As I said, it's a matter of policy,
right.
And I don't think we have reached that state where it is. And it's also about funds as well, economic issues. Right? Actually, currently, our ARVs are not sold per se. They are free. But somebody pays for free things. You gave me water, but I don't know where it came from. Somebody had paid for it. It didn't just land in the studio.
Right.
So somebody might pay for it. And we're lucky that we having external donors and they are withdrawing, and now the funding for our ARVs is not that adequate. The government has to subsidize a huge chunk of it, maybe a third or even getting to a half for ARVs for this thing. But currently, that is the state. The other aspect of drugs used for prevention is pre-exposure. You thought of something, you've imagined it, you take it before you go in. So it's pre-exposure, prophylaxis, and post-exposure.
Okay. So for the pre-exposure, is it accessible to everybody?
Currently, almost the same dynamics. We making it's currently available to most at-risk people, right?
Health personnel.
Sex workers, right? Men who have sex with men, right? Injecting drug users or people who use drugs, okay? And in some instances, right, we thinking of high rates adolescent young people in some instances. But in other countries, again, there are so many dynamics. It's about policy, it's about considering the interplay of socio-cultural, right, economic, environmental factors, right? In our society, if I come and say that I have medication I'm distributing to young ladies to go take it and then go and have fun or have sex, I'll be told I'm mad or something else. So there's a lot of social cultural issues when it comes to policy formulation, policy making, a lot of financial considerations. Who's going to pay for that? We don't have money to take care of people in schools.
What if the individuals want to pay for it?
That is one other consideration.
You say that if you have extra funds, you tend to be more adventurous. So these people with extra funds who are adventurous,
that's why
what if they pay for it?
Yes. So that is policy consideration. And so we see that, okay, we look at it, you can pay for it and you're okay, you could have it, and it's in the system. Some countries it's already there, available. Anywhere you go, you can have it. Some African countries have taken the lead. And I know Ghana, we are not the first movers or first starters. We kind of, it's sometimes good because a little cautious, try to see how it goes in other countries, socio-cultural, socio-economic, right, environmental factors, and all that before we do. So it's also part of the things that is coming. And in a recent gathering of African countries, in prevention, there's a global prevention coalition in which we have formed a South-to-South learning network, trying to ensure that African countries come together, learn from each other, because we have similar socio-cultural, political contexts, and adapt innovations in HIV to better our lot. And one of, just recently, I think in last month, October, right, we had one such conference in Ghana. We had over 20 African countries coming in. We had this conference at Alisa Hotel, and we discussed pre-exposure prophylaxis. Is it for us? How do we get it? Is it easily available? Should we put it in our toolbox as one of the prevention methods? Should it be made available to everyone who needs it? So
it's a dynamic conversation.
Yes, a lot of interesting issues came up, right? And yes, and so we came out with a communique that we are communicating among ourselves. That yes, PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, should be considered as one of the essential elements, not to replace. Sometimes we have the notion that it's going to no, all the other components of prevention, abstinence, is still there. But we should make the PrEP as one of the numerous tools within the toolbox. So if I, an individual, assess myself, or with the help of a health provider, we think this tool is what will work well, is what you need, then use it. If it's abstinence based on your religious and other background, you go for it.
So person-to-person treatment, depending on the personality, the
factors.
Right.
So PrEP has been added essentially to our toolbox of HIV prevention, A, B, C, and D. Post-exposure, pre-exposure. And pre-exposure, one other aspect of pre-exposure prophylaxis is the vaginal ring. right? So we have there is the pill, which is similar to one of the ARVs. We have tenofovir, and then the emtricitabine combination, which we use as pre-exposure prophylaxis. Another form, is the insertion of a vaginal ring, which is a device that has been impregnated with antiretroviral medicines. You remember, if you could remember, we had this, and it's still, some of them is still in town, this vaginal foam that prevents pregnancy. It's work in a similar fashion. So before you go have sex, or lady inserts the tablet, and then during the intercourse, whatever is released is kind of kills, it's spermicide. It kills the sperms, so you don't get pregnant. So it's a similar trying to illustrate, or it works for people to understand. So we have the vaginal ring, but currently the vaginal ring is not readily in town in Ghana.
Available.
Yeah, but in a few countries. And at the conference we discussed how some of these things can be
Wow, this D is very active. The D is very active. It looks like there are lots of innovative ways, you know, of infusing the D into the system. So the A, B, C, and the D. I want us to take a break. But just to recap on the D, you are saying within 72 hours post-exposure. How about pre-exposure?
Pre-exposure, we have the normal, which you take daily, right, to make it effective, right? There are protocols on that. When to stop after the last sex. And we have event-driven type. You don't take it every time, but if you're about to embark on an event that is risky, that exposes you to HIV, then you can take it. And there are schedules on that. Take it a few hours, a few days, I think 2 days, 3 days, and then you can go in.
So it takes the form of what do we call them? Oh, help me, doc. These drugs that we take to prevent pregnancy.
Yes.
It takes the same.
Yes. This contraceptives.
Contraceptives. That's what I was
contraceptive pill.
Right.
So it's innovations along.
Right.
When we started HIV
like
4 decades ago, there was no ARVs. Now ARVs have come, and then the innovations have come. Even the ARVs, we're now having new.
I was going to ask you, what we know about ARVs in the past is that, you know, the drugs were a lot. One person is taking so many drugs at a time. That's what was putting a lot of people off. It's like you're having to sort of imbibe, you know, so much chemicals into your system. Is it still the same?
No. Now it's, you know, because of the nature of the virus, very tricky, changing its envelope, right? Evasive and all that. We use to make the drugs more effective. It's a 3-drug combination.
3 drugs.
3 drugs.
3 drugs.
Most of it currently have been put into one pill. So you can take one pill that contains the 3 drugs, three components. 3 components. So we have like tenofovir, amulvidine, and dolutegravir. Most people are on this 3-drug combination, which has been put into one tablet. So you can take it once a day, and you are off the hook.
So you can just take 1 tablet once a day.
Yes.
Oh, that's impressive. It's so much better than what we knew in the past.
And then for the pre-exposure to, you take it once a day. Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And you can live a full normal life
Yes,
for
please.
as long as you are.
Even yeah. Some people take 3, 4.
3, 4 drugs a day. How about the pimples and the rashes and the things on the face? Because that was a telltale sign for me in the past. People with huge bumps on their face, I'm like,
No, every drug has some effect, side effects that is not directly the effect, the wanted effect
of the drug.
Even paracetamol have some little side, but is the degree of the effect and how uncomfortable it makes you, and whether, and other issue is that we also balance the effect as against the benefits.
Absolutely, but that's not even my question, sir. I mean, Doc, my question to you was,
the
and so now I thought
drugs
that
are not supposed to cause, do not normally cause
the bumps. I thought the bumps were as a side effect of
some
the
may.
infection, not the drugs.
Yes.
Please correct me here. I thought the bumps on the face was part of the symptoms of, living with the virus. Yeah. I didn't know that it's the drugs that...
What do you mean by bumps? Maybe I have to
the huge bumps on the face.
Some people might have...
It's not the telltale signs, the symptoms.
Some people might have an idiosyncratic reaction to some drugs, or hypersensitivity reaction to some drugs. For example, some person cannot take chloramphenicol, or even penicillin. Immediately you give an injection to penicillin, he has a serious skin reaction. So possibly that could be the effect of a few of those antiretroviral drugs. But it is not the norm for everybody. Then we have the effect of the HIV, which could cause skin conditions. When your immune system, the HIV virus, repeating HIV virus is tautology. When the virus or the HIV agent has decreased your immune system, you can have herpes infection on your skin, herpes zoster. This rashes all over. So if you say it's the effect of the virus in one breath, it is true.
In another breath,
it can be wrong.
Right.
In another breath, it can be an idiosyncratic reaction or a hypersensitivity reaction to a component of the drug that you're taking. But by and large, most of the time, it has been tested, it has gone through, so before the release for it to be used, 80%, 90% of cases is free. So the few that might have this, quickly, it is a myriad of drugs. There are thousands of drugs. Currently we have about 6 classes of antiretroviral drugs, and we combine 3, right? And in each class, there are different components. So if this is not good for you, or you don't, it doesn't work for you, either it doesn't suppress the virus, either you are not compatible with it, then it is switched or changed to other. Or you might have a condition that, for some of the drugs, cause severe anemia. Your blood levels goes down. Some are nephrotoxic. It affects your kidneys. So if you have some kidney problems, you don't take those specific ones. You have to
switch to something else.
So your healthcare provider will assess, will look at you, and then give you what best suits you. Yeah.
What works for you. That's awesome. I want us to take a break, sir. When we come back, I want the conversation to be centered on mother to child transmission. I think it's so important. So viewers, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us.
Ama's costume fabric is proudly sponsored by Akosomo Textiles Limited and designed by Ines Couture. Locate them at Aviation Road at Shalibuche. Call them 0200 800 990.
Welcome back to the show. This is still The Couch. My name is Ama Pratt. I am in conversation with Dr. Fred Nana Poku. He is Director of Technical Services with the Ghana AIDS Commission. And this evening our conversation has been, on HIV/AIDS prevalence in Ghana. Now to the elephant in the room, and perhaps one of the most important ones, mother-to-child transmission. Only last week, I had people from a rehab center here, and we were having conversation around them trying to build a space for kids that were addicts from their mothers. So they have mothers that are addicted to either alcohol or drugs, and subsequently the kids are born addicted themselves. And those kind of situations are truly terribly sad, right? At least the mother made a decision or made a choice, but this child, and for me it comes back to the issue of stigma when it comes to HIV/AIDS, because I think it's only stigma that will prevent a mother today, with all this technology and information, from going to the hospital and getting treatment that would prevent her from transmitting to the child. So we are back to stigma, aren't we?
Yes, and not only stigma,
right?
Understanding
as well. Okay.
So
stigma and understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
Because some people, apart from the stigma, do not understand that you can transmit the virus to your baby. Right? Stigma is big, it's huge, no doubt about it. But apart from that, for example, somebody who is positive, delivers a baby and needed to take this baby back for treatment, for prophylaxis, or even for testing. But because of the low appreciation and understanding sometimes of the issue, will not do it. Right?
This person is aware that she has HIV/AIDS.
Yes. I have it. You are enlightened. You understand that there's mother-to-child transmission is going on. That's one of the reasons we need to increase the campaign and preaching of PMTCT. It might surprise you that in the facilities, some of the women who visit, some really understand what is being said, but some is like, yeah, but I see me in your test. And I say, HIV now.
Right.
But it will cry. It's like, sometimes, our people, that different levels, right? So I blame it in a huge context on stigma, but I also blame it on ignorance, partly.
Then our health professionals have a lot of work to do.
They have a lot of work,
They
but
have their work cut out for them.
unfortunately, when they sit behind the desk, so many people overstressed, understressed. They don't even have the luxury of time to explain some of the issues to them. You gather the people, you see, 30, 40, you say you are talking to them. Somebody seated there, his mind is not, but you have given them a lecture, or you have explained what it is. So you expect that when he wakes up from his burden of carrying an 8 or 9 month full, when the person's mind is somewhere, he's tired, she's thinking, she had a bad night, and all that.
Poverty.
Poverty, she's thinking of the next meal and all that, and you come stand in front and say that, hey, and they say, yeah, she hasn't listened. So you finish and you say, Madam, sit here. You there, you think, so he just brings his hand, you take the blood and you take it, and then open Tamako, she's in a hurry too. So there are so many components, and that's why it beats your mind that people will not do certain things to prevent their own baby child from getting HIV.
Because there are things to be done, right?
There are things to
Today,
be
if
done.
you have HIV/AIDS, there are things that can be done. If you have HIV/AIDS and you are pregnant, there are things that can be done to prevent your baby from.
There are things to be done. The first is you as an individual adhering and taking your medication. And the medication that you take is no different from. So there's a person who knows is positive and gets pregnant, a person who doesn't know her status gets pregnant and get tested and then gets to know. You're all in the same category. You have to take your antiretroviral medication consistently and correctly. And then that is it's for your own health and for the baby. And then when you deliver, there are protocols that you have to, the baby cannot take decisions, or you as the mother, that is where most of the challenges lies. In a few instances, they are not consistent with their medication because of stigma, and they are hiding, they don't want their husbands to know and all that. Then the other part of it is those who know and are comfortable taking the responsibility of taking their babies through the protocols.
Excuse me.
That will make sure that they don't get, the babies don't have established, because they've been exposed to the virus, they don't get HIV that is there. And then that ensuring that the baby also get tested and getting their medication is a big challenge sometimes. And then lastly, apart from these two-tier things, is the health system itself, the availability of the resources for the processes to be done, including the staffing, etc., etc., the equipment, the DBS blood sample taking, the laboratories to do the testing. Sometimes they take the sample, the DBS, this thing is not available. It's available, they put it on. The machine that is supposed to read it is spoiled. They discard it. The next time the mother brings the baby, she say we have to do it again. They say, why? Stress on the woman, right? And some of them, they observe you pricking the heel of the baby, and it sends, so they don't want to see it again. They don't want to do it again. Sometimes it's done 3 times, sometimes 4 times. Why?
On a baby.
On a baby. And we expect that the early infant diagnosis be done in the first week. If we miss that, then in 6 weeks, when you come for antenatal, we expect to do that. But majority is one of the biggest challenge in our HIV response in the country.
That's structural.
Yes, the structural, and then the cultural, and then knowledge management on the part of adherence on the part of the mom and carrying the baby into all that. So there are structural issues as it is, and then gaps in the availability of some of these materials. And unfortunately, all these things, non-adherence or poor adherence from the mother, lack of concentration and bringing babies for their follow-ups and all that, structural components, the health system lapses and weaknesses, feeding habits of the mom.
Breastfeeding, right?
Yes.
Is it the breastfeeding you are?
Yes, intertwined with.
I'm sorry to take you back, but so is it recommended or is it not recommended, breastfeeding?
Breastfeeding.
If you have the HIV.
If you have HIV, breastfeeding is recommended. In some instances, may not be recommended.
Dependent.
But yes, but the issue at stake is if your baby tests positive, right? Mixed feeding is not advised. Formula and then breast milk, you are mixing the feeding. It's not advised.
You have to stick with one.
Yes, and especially for mothers, for the exposed baby, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months is ideal, but mixed feeding is not advised, especially the first 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, because if your baby is positive and the risks of using formula feeds in our environment and in most people can lead to serious diarrhea, infections that can tilt the baby to the other side.
Because it's really fragile at that point.
Yes, and then
they
they
die.
die.
A fragile situation.
Right. So mixed feeding is, and breast milk is very good because it contains colostrum and antibodies from the mother, and especially in the baby in the first few days of life, do not have or cannot manufacture its own antibodies. So it is the one that is produced and provided through the breast milk to the baby that protects the baby. So that's why we encourage that a lot.
Wow. And all of this treatment is free? Is it free?
Yes.
Absolutely free.
Yes.
The test and all?
Yes. It's all free.
All free.
All
the
free.
test for the mother free?
Yes.
Test for baby free?
Yes.
Drugs for mother free?
Yes.
Drugs for baby free?
Yes.
Do you see my worry now? As to why in the midst of all of this free, people will still leave newborn babies to grow up with HIV AIDS. That's my concern. I mean, everything is free. The process is free from beginning till the end. I mean, of course, it depends on which hospital. If you go to a private hospital, it might not be so free.
Yeah, right.
But if you are dealing with the government institutions, and it's important that we keep harping on that, it's absolutely free.
Yes.
At every stage. Because all of us get tested when you're pregnant. When you're pregnant, you get tested for HIV. It's a standard. Right? So, I mean, if you didn't know before, you will know. And once you know, the drugs for you are free. The testing for your baby is free. The drugs for your baby is free.
Sometimes psychologically, some ladies, when they test, they get to know they are positive, especially those who test during pregnancy and get to know. They play the blame game. It's the man who had given it to me. So coming to terms with herself to go for the medication, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, right? So your person will go back into history. Why did this man go? Where has he been? Did he have HIV all along?
We expend energies on the wrong thing. Because in that moment, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is you and your baby.
But that's
the most important
thing.
thing.
Yes, some of them do. That's what they think about. And that can drain them, stress them out. And by the time the person had decided, already the pregnancy itself is physiologically breaking. I mean, it kind of brings you down. So adding this stress of knowing that I'm HIV positive, some of them to gather themselves, to take weeks, right? And that will not be too good for them as well.
That's why, again, the health professionals have their work cut out for them. It's at this point that we hope that the health professionals will step in quickly and give the needed counsel.
Yes.
Because it can go a long way.
Look, but when I enter the facility and I see the queue of pregnant women at my door, right? Some had sat and they are tired and they just sit anyhow. And I look at the time and I have to rush through seeing these 50, 60 people. It's difficult for me to have ample time to counsel and talk to and find. So yes, what are you saying? What is wrong? By the time you finish, say Jack, next, and then. But that is not, I'm not justifying that. There's no way I am justifying that. We have to find a way of making this work. If we have to even increase, I know some facilities, they do the antenatals every day, Monday to Friday. Some have even gone ahead to do it on Saturdays. And why can't we do it even Sundays?
We can do Monday to Sunday.
Yes, 24/7. That is why we are thinking of 24 economy.
The 24-hour economy. Right.
Which is already happening somewhat in some places anyway. So, in the same vein, we should adapt. Right? We should adapt. In the developed world, they have a lot of doctors for an hour, right? Intervals. So When you come, I know I have 1 hour
Sit
with
down.
you. You sit down.
And
We talk. We talk, right? So the whole day you might have only 4 patients, 4 clients to see for the whole 24-hour period. I do it at my own pace and at your own convenience, right? Here we don't have it that way, but we have to adjust. So one of the adjustments that we could do is to see people on Sundays. So if the entire period I'm seeing 50 people, I spread around 7 instead of spreading around 5. So that, I mean, like, we can talk a little more. But I'm sure we will gradually get there.
Absolutely.
Some private hospitals have started, and so they have that. But the government all also contribute, being due to the same animal, poverty.
Poverty. Doc, our time is up. I think that, I mean, it has been very, very, very informative, this conversation. I hope that anybody watching us now would appreciate that, you know, today HIV/AIDS is not a death sentence. It's one of hope, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a hope of possibilities. And, if you do a few lifestyle adjustments and tune your mind to taking, medication every day, I think that there are endless possibilities. I think the most important thing now would be the new infections, right? So this mother to child transmission.
Yes, also
and also, the rest of us who are not living with it, how we also
to prevent A, B, C, D.
Exactly. The D. Doc,
The D.
The D. So, but the D comes back to structure, and it comes back to you and how you can make it, more accessible to everybody.
And how it can be culturally accepted, social-cultural consideration. Right? That is also a big aspect of it.
It's true, Doc. I have to admit that there's a part of my brain
that is
in all of this conversation I was saying, what kind of promiscuous medicine is this? There's a part of my brain, even as we are having the conversation, that's just saying, what kind of promiscuous medicine is this, right?
It's like condom in schools, adolescents. They say, no. But they are getting pregnant all over in the schools.
Right.
Sometimes by the teachers themselves. So if the teachers were teaching them how to use condoms and they are using it, you think they will get pregnant? So a lot of policy considerations.
I mean that as a people, we accept that we are not all the same.
That is what
Not all the same.
we have to understand. It is a big challenge to us. Being flexible, but not being, I don't even know the word to use. Sometimes that is the issue. This is what it is. It is what it is.
This is our reality.
It is what it is. How do we solve it? Or you kind of close your eyes and pretend as if it is not happening. Then it becomes a bit of a challenge. It's a bit of a challenge. It is what it is.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. What are your final words? And then we can run away from here. What are your final words?
Yes. 2 things. Prevention is possible for everybody, and we should just prevent it. It's a decision we take and actions we take. We have explained the ABCD, and it's all about lifestyle, and especially the young people, right? So you don't put yourself in a position where you have to take medications every day. They are there, all right, but it puts stress on you, your body. Of course, your body will have to metabolize the medication. It's a foreign material in your system anyway, so might have even side effects and all that. So let's prevent it as much as possible. It is a stress on the national coffers. Our donor partners also contribute. That money could be used otherwise. It's a stress on our health system. the money could be used in other way, and reduces the workload on our health personnel so that they'll have time to even talk about other important things of your health. Number two, persons living with HIV. It is not a death sentence anymore. A lot of people understand. Stigma is not a problem. Sometimes they stigmatize themselves. What about if I say, well, if you say, I'm going to say I have HIV, I say, so what? I'm gone. It's your issue. You are thinking, and hey, I'm free. So we shouldn't allow stigma to bother us. And as persons and all that, no need to stigmatize, because who are you to judge? Thank you very much.
When you could get it tomorrow.
You could even get it tomorrow.
When you could get it tomorrow. So just to put what you said in perspective, about 2 persons out of every 100 Ghanaians has HIV.
Less than, yes, a little less than
Right.
2. Because
Is that statistics correct?
yes, it's 1.66.
So when you meet 100 people, about 2.
Yes, 1.66. That is
1.66%.
that is our prevalence.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
so just to put that in perspective, right? About 2 persons out of every 100 Ghanaians has HIV. It's just have that at the back of your mind. Also, that about 2,791 babies are born already infected with HIV. I think in 2019.
Okay, but yeah, in 2022, it was about 2,868.
It's gone up.
2,868.
2,868 children were born with HIV
Yes.
in 2022. That's last year.
Yes, please.
Let's have that one too in mind. And for me, the most important thing about this conversation is about survival, well-being, and productivity. At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Right.
But, Doc, I can't leave the show without saying this. Ultimately, comes back to poverty and economics, doesn't it?
A major contributor.
Ultimately.
No, not a major contributor, because some people are prolific. We are more than, right? It's sometimes biologically people will say the hormones, the balances of the hormones are different, so they just enjoy sex.
Right.
And sometimes because of that, you might not be prepared
To deal with it. But and I'm saying
so
this,
the poverty aspect, I agree with you that
Right.
in a big chunk
Right.
of the situation could be it, but there are other few.
And look, I'm saying that not on a personal level. I'm saying that on a national and perhaps on a sub-regional level, that as a people, as Africans, we need to be consciously aware of how our economic situation affects us in all aspects of our lives.
Yes,
in terms of our health, social, lifestyle, in everything that we do. And to be
agree.
conscious of that.
I agree.
Right?
That one I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to make decisions and to think in ways that would take us out of, terrible economic situations and poverty. Thank you so much.
I was reading something. Look, I said the number of people who are poor in all dimensions.
Right. When you're poor to the health-wise, economic-wise. I mean, so we have to do
multi-dimensional
better.
poverty.
I mean, we definitely have to do better and think differently. Look at ideologically different ways in which we can live successful lives, full lives, flourishing lives as Ghanaians and also as Africans. Thank you for watching the show today. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Doc.
Thank
Bye.
you too. Enjoy the day.